football players, countrymen, welcome to the Run Pass Option podcast. I'm
Let me get
happy to, sure. Friends, fantasy football players, countrymen, welcome to the Run Pass Option podcast. I'm happy to be here. My name's David, and I'm with Matt. You can find us at SAC Experts. That's David. Matt is over at Fantasy Salesman, and the conglomerate is Fantasy Analyzers, fantasyanalyzers.com. If you're an upcoming writer, if you have a love for the game and have questions, shoot over some messages or comments to the Twitter pages. We're happy to answer questions at any time. We love to contribute to the community in general. The podcast Run Pass Option is going to be primarily about fantasy football. It's going to be in depth analysis. There's going to be updates. There's going to be injury headlines. We're going to talk about player comments, coach talk, coach speak is what a lot of people say. If you have mailbag questions, shoot them in. If you have uh, if you have an issue with a lineup, we may be able to just go in there and kind of talk it through with you. If you're talking about Jordan Howard or Matt Breida as your flex option on week 11, and it's a do or die. I'm going to get into playoffs. Those are one of the weeks that you may want to have an extra hand. And Matt and I, along with all the contributors, are more than happy to respond via a comment. Maybe we'll write it into an article, or perhaps we'll even have you on the show. A lot of you guys make trades in season. We love fantasy football trades. We love talking them. Everyone's on the sleeper lines or the group chats, and sometimes you just don't have a consensus of was that trade fair? Why did it go through? It ruined the league, but you know what? We're gonna have a segment coming on. It's gonna be the judge and jury, where you talk about your fantasy football trade, and we're gonna go through it, and we'll be the judge and the jury, and we determine, hey, that trade's good or that trade is getting out of here. So we really enjoy this football talk. And without further ado, I want to talk a little bit about ourselves in this episode. Again, my name's David. I reside in California, specifically living in Sacramento, California. I was born in the Bay Area, the San Francisco area, but have since migrated for my job and college to Sacramento. I shouldn't say recently because a couple of years ago, I graduated from Sacramento State, and a couple of years ago, I was playing college football. It seems like a century ago, but even before that, I was playing high school football. And the cool thing about this is Jesuit High School, and it means a lot to me because we went 10-0 that season. Um, and then again, fast forward to me graduating and playing college football. So I've been playing football my whole life, and it's a natural progression for me to play fantasy football. I started out in high school playing fantasy football, so as far back as 2003, I was playing fantasy football, and then I got started playing for money in '06. So it's been almost 16, 17 years playing fantasy football. I have the trophies to show for it. I have plenty more. These are just some of the big ones that I grabbed real quick. Well, this is ones for basketball. We got football. I have my championship belt here. This is one of my. You see, this isn't no cheap stuff. This is a belt, baby.
that's
This thing
pretty.
is. You know what I mean? So we have the accolades to talk about this fantasy football stuff. And I hope you guys get on this journey with us, man. Because what it is, it's a journey. It's two guys and a lot of contributors who just love the sport. And it's not only do we love the sport of fantasy football because it is a sport. It's there's a lot of money behind it, guys. We're not gonna lie. People are into whether it's $100 leagues, $200 leagues, $500 leagues, $1,500 leagues, $5,000 leagues, maybe even play DFS, maybe you play FanDuel or DraftKings. A lot of the analysis we're talking about is going to be point 0.5 PPR unless we state otherwise. And you can catch the rankings on fantasyanalyzers.com. Matt has done a really good job building up that site. We've become friends over the last, just several conversations we've had about just how our goals to really build up the community as a whole. A lot of people are individuals in this fantasy football community, and for good reason. They're good at what they do. But what we want to do is bring people together and have a group conversation, and also give everyone a platform and a voice. So, if
Yeah,
you
I mean,
again,
this is kind of where I can take it. You
sure,
brought up Sacramento. I personally spent time in Sacramento growing up. My dad raced horses in
Cal
Sacramento's. It's like
Expo.
two Cal Expo. So trained horses sort of with him. I was around horses, and that was a beautiful time in my life. High school for me, Southern California, Anaheim, a block away from Disneyland. Um, good times. I played hockey, roller hockey, Southern California. I
You're an
also got to
athlete,
skate.
Matt. You're an athlete. It sounds like you
I
play
appreciate
multiple
that.
different sports, man.
Yeah,
Just kind of
basketball. You know, I got to skate with the Ducks once. I got to see their practices, the Mighty Ducks back then.
no shit. That was a
But
big
go
deal too, man. That
go
was a
Golden
big deal.
Knights. I'll say that. But definitely seen some Stanley Cup. I saw one Stanley Cup game with the Ducks, which was a blast against the Devils. I
Shout out to
actually
the
grew up
San
a
Jose Sharks,
LA
by the way.
King. Yeah, I was an LA Kings fan. Kind of crossed over since I live in Vegas now. So since I've been in Vegas, fantasy leagues have really heated up for me as far as
LA.
as far as local guys that I know, good friends of mine, mainly from church as well as Shimmon's show business I've been involved with. Been in nothing really, but I've been in student films as well as uh, stage productions, directing and acting. So this is kind of home for me. I love being in front of the camera or on stage speaking. I'm excited about kind of this, just like sitting down and discussing football with you every week. Personally, fantasy analyzers is where my heart is right now. Aside from my fiance and my beautiful dog and beautiful fiance, she's gorgeous. Anyways, this is where I grew up studying football and kind of learning from my uncle has about 40 years of experience as far as fantasy. So he did everything on paper, Excel sheets. He has a buddy of his that did all the numbers, ran all the stats in the newspaper, like late 80s, early 90s. There was no internet at that point available to many people. And that's where I'm homegrown. I keep a notebook still. A lot of it is transferred over online, but still a paper guy, paper and pen. I probably will have a pen or pencil on me, especially if I'm with you and I'm kind of chopping things up and in front of you guys. Kind of where are we standing on this guy this week? Waivers maybe will come into discussion as well. There's so many different angles that fantasy players can come from, and we just want to kind of be a voice. I mean, we want you to bring your opinions to us, and we're more than willing to even contention. Bring it. Let's see where the hearts are as far as and minds of fantasy football at this point, and I'm excited to sit down with you, David, and Zach experts to
Chop it up, man. Chopping
see
it up.
chop it up exactly. So
Yeah. I
journey
have a question.
wise, go ahead.
I was going to say, I have a question for you, Matt. One of the things you mentioned, and I think our listeners want to hear too, is that, you had that creative on stage presence, and it comes out naturally when you speak. And, for all those people who were kind of timid about jumping into the fantasy football community and having their own voice and being a creative essentially. Because, to have a Twitter handle or to be on Instagram or to go on Twitch and to, announce yourself as like a voice in the community, it takes some real, backbone. And, maybe what would you say to somebody who is really trying to like start out?
So like I said, I come from on stage. That's where I'm born and bred. High school, it started in theater class. Even before that, I was in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I was a little squirrel. So you're a little squirrel in a sense. The new Charlie and the Chocolate Factory has squirrels. Like the old one did it, but the new one has a squirrel. I was one of those. So
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm Charlie. I ain't Willy Wonka either. And I think you can relate with me is whatever you want to do, put it out there. I think that's number one as far as creative. You can't hold it in. And when you do, there's certain anxieties and stresses that come along with a creative mind that if you're not putting it out there, you will, it's a kind of a personal thing. It's like you kind of explode. Like I talk to guys weekly, almost weekly, about fantasy football being an outlet. And so it's not so much creative, it's actually like therapeutic. And in the theater industry, we call it cathartic. We need outlets to express ourselves, to explain where we're coming from, and to be heard. And be heard doesn't mean you always agree, everyone around you is happy, butterflies and things like that. A lot of it is conflict. And conflict is another thing. You're gonna have people on your site or your Twitter or whatever it is telling you you're wrong every week, multiple. If you're willing to
And that's okay.
put
That's
your
okay.
opinion, yeah. So if you're willing to put your opinion out there, be vulnerable. Let them come to you, discuss it. Don't take it to heart. Everyone has their own opinions, and that's the business we're in. But I would put my opinions out there. I would open up my Twitter to anybody that has questions because people just want perspective. They don't want you to tell them how to do it. They want to hear how you do it or how you would address a certain situation as far as start sits, cost and fab for waivers, whatever that looks like. So do it. Just do it.
There you hear it, man. It's just, for all the first time fantasy football players, for all the people that are, really good at playing the game of fantasy football and just want that extra urge to get into the community. Matt said it best, don't hold anything back. Just go ahead and put it out there. Be the man in the arena. Teddy Roosevelt said it best. You know, don't be discouraged, when another man is watching from the stands. You're out there
Mm,
putting your reputation on the line, your blood, sweat, and tears into contributing into your art into the community and creating content for just everyone to dissect. And that's what's
of
gonna give you
course.
what's needed to take that next step. Just the more confidence you get, the more times you do it, the better you're going to get. Everybody knows practice makes perfect. So, I thought it was
Yeah.
important because Matt has a really good just experience in being creative and going on stage, but not everyone has that. Not everyone is, able to
I
just
don't
jump
have
on the
it.
saddle.
I just
And
I
there you
just
go.
do it and hope for the best. You know what I mean? Like it's not nobody even on Broadway is gonna say I have it every time I have it. That's the beauty in art is you don't have it, but you let it happen. I just want to say that like it's not. I'm not a professional. And then if someone says they're a professional, then they've lost track of who they are, in my opinion.
Yeah, and again, a lot of this is perspective. A lot of it is, a knowledgeable speculation. And, there's 9 times out of 10, you're going to hit on some outlandish take that you thought
Mm,
was going to be, totally bogus. And, one time out of a 10, you're going to hit on something that you thought was the 100% sure thing. So, there's times where, some of the most, hey, Devontae Freeman in
Yeah.
2015 is going to be an RB1. And, he wasn't even, talked about as a starter back then, so, and it just goes to show how,
Mm.
quickly things can change because now
George
fast forward
Kittle.
to fast forward to 2020, Devontae Freeman is not even, signed by a team. So it's
Oh
just
man.
this fantasy game
I
is it
mean,
just like life, unpredictable.
yeah, who would ever know that Le'Veon Bell would end up with the Jets and being subpar? You know what I mean? Like back in 3 or 4 years ago, Le'Veon Bell was the man, like straight up the man, and then him taking
Number
the year
one
off and
overall, probably number one overall, not too long ago.
for a few years ago, yeah, and a few years, that didn't it stopped. So one thing I wanted to touch on was kind of your career. Like, what is
Sure,
actually
sure.
this is kind of where I'm coming from is what do you do for a living? And on top of that, how does that play into the way that you approach fantasy football, and specifically?
Yeah. So, I actually am an analyst. And when I say analyst, I work in consulting. I have a business, and we create websites and the aesthetics to websites. A lot. I write a lot of copyright, trying to put my degree to use. So somebody will come to me and ask for, hey, I have this vision, and we have some really good people that can, do the back end work and create this beautiful site. And then what I do personally is I make sure that the aesthetics are right to it. I make sure the color scheme, the logo, the pictures, the font, the writing, the
Mm,
copyright, it's
yeah, that makes
all,
sense.
it's all done a certain way. Because in a sense, like that's what people are looking at first. What does it look like? Is it optimized on a phone?
Mm,
So in a
yeah,
nutshell,
so
that
how does that play into fantasy and the way you kind of
sure,
dice it up?
sure. So I think there's an approach to creating a perfect website, and to me, it's like creating
Okay.
a perfect lineup every
There it
week. So
is. Mm,
what I look for is, am I looking for the pictures? And if I'm looking for the pictures, that's like maybe equivalent to an RB1. First I need the pictures. I need the pictures to line up in
mm,
the right place, and then I need the
yeah.
words to be a certain length, and I need to send a certain message, and that's my wide receiver. And then I need the color schemes because the colors are what makes it pop, and that's my quarterback.
Mm,
And then I need the links to the social pages because that's my tight end. So when you put all these different pieces together, it's like putting together a fantasy football lineup. And just like we're playing FanDuel, we're playing DraftKings, you want to get the best lineup at the right price.
of course.
So that's kind of how I correlate fantasy football
And
to my
price comes into
job.
draft, value, price,
It
when
sure
you're
does.
drafting for
Rounds,
redraft, dynasty, whatever that looks like.
keeper, Devi, all that
So,
stuff.
kind of building off of what you're saying is, um, my name is Fantasy Salesman. I'm in sales. So it's not something I'm like, oh, I'm a salesman. I actually do that for a living. So um, I love connecting with people. It's kind of something that I've always loved to do. Um, Anybody around me, like today I was downtown Vegas with my
Shout
girl,
out
meeting
to
up with a friend.
Vegas,
Yeah, buddy. Anyways,
Las Vegas Raiders.
yeah. So my girl and my fiance and I were meeting an old friend of mine. I've known him 10, 15 years. He's in radio and in the LA area. He goes by double R Ricky Rodriguez. He has kind of filled me in as far as how he approaches certain radio sets and stuff like that, but that's kind of beside the point. I'm in sales, so essentially what I want to do is not about the object. It's not about this running back. It's not about his story. It's not really about who he is personally either. It's more about the way I approach it from an angle of value. Do I value this person, and do I recognize that he brings value to me. And sometimes in my passing day, like passing by days in a sense, people at the grocery store, I value them as a person. But when it's business, it's a little different. So wheeling and dealing is my thing. I love negotiating. I love discussing value on certain players, the way that they, yeah, so the way that
Love
they
it. Love
can
it.
either bring value to my team or not. Maybe there's more value out in the market, and I I'm involved with small businesses as well as nonprofits, and there's, like I said, there's a duality to it as a value as a human, which I'm always going to respect a human for who they are. But there's also value as far as finances and money. And money is kind of like, ooh, dirty word, cash. Oh, oh no. But realistically, the world, it doesn't revolve around money, but money is kind of a key thing in everyone's life.
It's a motivator.
So it's a motivator. It can be. Um, it fuels you, it sustains you, it provides for you.
Capitalism.
So, I am not attached to it like other people are. I don't really give into the capitalist society kind of thing. I do, of course, we all do, but that's kind of the way I approach fantasy. I've always loved talking to my league mates. Sometimes they don't kind of realize what they're sharing with me and kind of the things that I'm getting from them as far as where they stand, how they value certain players, or what they're going to do in the draft. So I take conversations very seriously as well as enjoy them, just like this one with you. So, like, kind of to wrap everything up, um, I focus on value, and that's in the draft, that's at waivers, and that's at trades as well. Anything realistically in fantasy, and that's where I come from. So I definitely, kind of love where you come from, and I think we work really well together because we come at it from different angles, and there's going to be some disagreements, and I'm excited to kind of dive into some of those with you and kind of see where each other lays as far as that. And also coming up, we have some guests. There's a number of guys that are, and maybe women, we'll see, that'll come in and kind of share
Love
what
the
their thoughts
inclusion.
are as well. It's all about, I mean, fantasy is not a guy's game. I'm going to say that plainly. Like, we've owned it in a sense, blah, 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 but anybody's welcome. And I'm excited to get anybody and everyone. If you're 8 years old, if you're 88, 108, you're a man, woman, or in between, it doesn't bother me, or you're human. And I love you. I can just say that as a human being myself. It's all about love from me. And that's kind of it. I mean, I'm really excited for Run Pass Option, what we got here,
Run
and the
pass
news
option.
and the weekly episodes that we're gonna have. So stay tuned. This is kind of our, of course, welcome, get to know each other, get to know you guys, getting to know us. Mailbag. So those questions every week that you have, waivers, trade proposals, trade offers, considering value on the market and things like that. That's where I think my strengths are, and start sits and so much more. I'm really excited to kind of chop things up with you, David, and let's do this. Let's do
Awesome,
this.
man. Awesome. Like he said, run pass option is a go for now. We'll be coming at you with football updates, trades, mailbag questions, and just football news. A lot of the times, like it'll be fantasy football related, but we're going to talk about some coach speak. We're going to talk about some tweets from players. We're going to talk about just some headlines, and whether that's coming from a lot of these ESPN or Yahoo websites. We're gonna chime in on stuff that's important to the community, and we're all coming from a place of positivity, coming from a place of love. We're very inclusive, like he said. I come from a Jamaican, Spanish, Mexican heritage. He's part Irish. He has some Jewish in him. We're very like open to all different types of communities, man. And
Mm,
again, this is comes
preach.
from a position of love. We really want to spread positivity, and we're willing to debate our socks off. And
Mm.
it's fun for us, man. So
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
Run Pass Option is a go. Look out for the next episode. It'll be coming soon. Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. Let's do it.
All right. All right,
All right.
everyone. You guys have a good day. We'll talk to you guys soon. Signing off, baby.